Hi there, my name's Ben, and today I want to talk about something that, I've learned over the past couple of years, something that I found extremely useful and something that I think is really important, and that is the importance of taking risks. Now, most people will hear the word risk and they'll think, okay, dangerous, potentially unsuccessful, it's a gamble, and it's not safe, and it's very, very uncomfortable. There's a high probability, you can say, that it's not going to pan out. I don't necessarily think that that's the case always, and I'm just going to go through a couple of points as to why I think it's good for you to take risks from time to time. The first one being is that while safety is important, if you're always in a zone of safety, there's no challenges, there's no hardship, and consequently, that means there's no real opportunity for growth. I spoke about this in a previous video about how, if you suffer willingly, then, if you put yourself through a little bit of hardship, then, your capacity to grow increases and you learn a lot of stuff that you can then use to not only help yourself and provide value to yourself, but to provide value to other people. But again, that's all part of that's technically taking a risk as well, is putting yourself through a hardship. Risks can really be anything, but while safety is very, very important, you should always challenge yourself and take a risk every now and again. Even if that means, even if you think, I don't want to really take chances with everything else, then you're probably always going to end up thinking what could have been instead of actually going out and trying it. This sort of leads to my second point, which is if you spend all of your time planning and analyzing, the window of opportunity will close. The opportunity itself will pass you by, and you end up becoming paralyzed. I sort of call this the Hamlet syndrome, where you ponder and ponder and ponder and ponder, and you have to have all of your ducks in a row, and you have to have everything planned out, everything analyzed. As von Clausewitz says, you want the fog of war to be completely absent, nothing obscuring the field of battle. But that's obviously never going to happen. This is something that I've struggled with a lot myself, because I am somebody who tends to not only have a plan A or a plan B, but I have plan C, D, E, F. I do my best to plan for every single possible contingency. But the problem is that if I spent all my time planning for every single niche scenario, then what am I actually going to get done? And not to mention as well, as a little aside, sometimes it's good to have, to take that risk, and then where the multitude of plans that you've prepared don't fit, they won't be able to provide the solution to this problem. So there's actually a wonderful exercise where it sort of forces you to think on the fly and be like, okay, now I have to create a brand new plan on the fly with the data that I have in order to solve this problem. So that's something at least that I've learned. I try not to ponder as much. Obviously, you shouldn't go into something completely unprepared, but I think that there is a lot of value in not planning too much. Plan for what can be planned for, and then bite the bullet, take the charge, and go in. And once a situation arises that you need to fix, you can adjust that way. And it's actually really helpful it's a good exercise for your brain too. The third reason why I think it's important to take risks is that it helps you to be more assertive, helps you to be less of a pushover. Of course, we often associate risk-taking behavior, which, as very foolhardy at times. And some risk-taking behavior can be like that. And there's also taking risks that aren't healthy, and they're not productive, they're not conducive. that's not necessarily what I'm trying to get at. I'm not saying that, if you're going to take a risk with your health and start smoking, that you're going to be more assertive, or even though, I am a smoker, go figure. Or if you're going to, let's say, go into something completely unprepared and take a risk that way, I'm not saying that makes you more assertive, but, you planning out and, taking a risk and saying, like, what, I really want to pursue this business venture, or, I want to write this book, or I want to make this video, or I want to create this content or something like that. Or, what, I want to, this girl looks really attractive. I want to talk to her, or anything else, right? You want to break the ice or something. That's all of that is taking a risk. And the more risks you take, the more chances you take, the more assertive you're going to be, because, it becomes less scary to you. Now, I did talk about taking unnecessary risks briefly, and I'm sort of going to dovetail into that now, wherein you shouldn't be taking unnecessary risks because it's counterproductive. If you're constantly taking risks, then essentially there is no safety net for yourself, and that's a very, very dangerous game to play. You're living fast and loose at that point, and it's not necessarily very helpful for everybody or for anybody, and especially not for yourself. Now, as I mentioned before, you can only do so much calculation. You're not going to know if a risk is unnecessary without that experience. But you do have to take it from time to time. Eventually you do have to pull the trigger. And there's a wonderful expression that I love, is that you either have to shit or get off the pot. So and I love that expression particularly because if you're in a situation and you're committed to it, you have to either do something or remove yourself from the situation. And that leads us to I guess my last big point as to why taking risks is so important, is that even if it doesn't work out, even if, let's say the risk does not, the gamble doesn't pay off and you end up failing miserably, at least you still have the experience that you can draw on for next time. And that in and of itself, as I touched on in a previous video, can be even more valuable than a victory, than succeeding. Is that if you really debrief and you analyze your loss, you're holding the L, as they say, and you're holding it for some time, but you learn from it, that L becomes a W, win in your column, and because you can actually learn from it. So anyway, that's why I think that taking risks from time to time is extremely important. What are your thoughts? Would you say that you're more of a risk taker, or you're a little bit more conservative with it? If you do take risks, what's one that paid off and what's one that didn't? Please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. And as always, thank you so much for watching.